Copperbell mines hard. Remember that group of angry giant slaves that we had you put down? Well, we went back to digging and found more of them. And boy howdy are they mad that you killed all their friends. Can you be a lamb and go back in there and kill the rest of them? Oh, they might be particularly aggressive towards you, especially since you're the one who, like we just said, killed all their friends. Hi, I'm Tyler, Final Fantasy XIV player and amateur bartender, and I've made it my mission to craft a cocktail for every dungeon in the game. And today, we're doing Copperbell Mines Hard. Welcome to a cocktail reborn. Let's get started. I guess it makes sense that this is the first hard dungeon, especially since the justification for you going back in is probably the flimsiest of all the hard dungeons. Remember that thing we had you do before? Well, can you do it again? The one saving grace of this place is the boss fights are actually interesting and are unlikely to ever be reworked since this isn't a leveling dungeon. The first fight has its fire puddles and meandering boss arena. The second boss takes what was interesting about the original Icarus Ire fight and expands on it. And the final fight is just a boy and his worm. Honestly, if you can ignore the ick of the premise and the half-assed justification for coming back here, it can be a pretty enjoyable experience, especially if you do this of your own accord and don't randomly get it in roulette. If you'll remember back to the original Copperbell Mines, I based that drink on a Moscow Mule. Only I used bourbon instead of vodka, because vodka is the most uninteresting spirit to mix with. With the Icarus Ire no longer a threat, using chartreuse doesn't really make sense. But I also didn't want to just swap out one ingredient and call it a day. Even though the same basic formula of bosses is present here. A giant, an undamageable whatever, and another giant. This will be similar in that it's a long drink, but the drink I'm taking inspiration from has less to do with the inhabitants of the dungeon and more to do with the person who randomly gets Copperbell Mines hard on their roulette. The Suffering Bastard. Because, let's face it, it's not a bad dungeon to run if you know what you're getting into. But if you get it randomly in your duty roulette, and you're with people that have no idea what they're doing, this could take as long as Praetorium. Let's craft. In the normal Copperbell Mines, I used rye whiskey as my main spirit to represent the enslaved Hecontaries, so we'll keep that the same. I want something explosive to add for the Gog-Magolem fight, and I think Planteray OFTD will work well here. Underneath the golem's armor, we have a sweet little spriggan named Biggie, and I'll use Demerara Syrup to remember the sweet feeling of beating his fuzzy little ass. For the bubbling hatred of these justifiably pissed off giants, I'll be using Seltzer. Again, I tried this with ginger beer and it just took over the whole drink. So, Seltzer it is. For the bitter feeling of having to put these guys down for the sake of the realm, I'll be using Angustora Bitters, and finally, lemon juice for balance. Start by adding 2 dashes of Angustora Bitters to your shaker. Next, we'll add 1 ounce lemon juice, half an ounce Demerara Syrup, and 2 ounces of rye. Add pebble ice and shake for 10 to 15 seconds. Open pour into a Collins glass, along with 4 ounces of seltzer. Make sure there's plenty of room at the top of the glass. Next, take 1 ounce of our OFTD bomb and float it on the top of the drink. No garnish, because Copperbell Mines doesn't deserve a garnish. And here we have Copperbell Mines Hard. Let's give it a taste. You mean to skip ahead to a world where you can watch the rest of the video? Hear me then. Not as a viewer, but as simply you. As I learned from my YouTube face. You are a formidable foe, stronger than any I have faced. Against you, I need bring my content to bear. I need burn the candle of my mixology. This is the sole pleasure I know, and it is the sole pleasure I have to share. And so I come before you to issue a Patreon and offer singular bliss. If you wish to skip ahead, I will not stop you. You value content. You do not burn your time, save for that you deem worthy. Early access and exclusive videos, the content of a patron true. But there is more to you than that. You know this to be true. Just as you know the thrill of pushing your bar and budget to their limits, of confronting ever mightier bottles, dancing ever closer to the precipice, wondering if this will be the one to finally fill the void. Such spirits you seek for their own sake, and no other reason. Is this not so, patron? Sign up for as little as $5 a month for exclusive content every month. Link in the description. Cheers. Now, depending on how you drink this, you're going to get two different types of flavors. Either you drink off the top, where the float of OFTD is, or you drink off the bottom. So we're going to try both. So, OFTD, very strong, very flavorful. First thing you get, but then you get a little bit of everything else in there. You get a bit of the Demerara, you get the spiciness of the rye, you get the spiciness of the Angustora. Now let's try down at the bottom. Okay, definitely get more of the rye there. The lemon juice stands out, which is interesting. Usually when I do lemon juice, it just kind of hangs back there unless I'm doing a sour. The lemon juice, the rye, the Angustora, the Demerara adds just enough sweetness so that it isn't bitter, but at the same time also adds its own depth with the high molasses content in the Demerara sugar. Yeah, if I had used ginger beer, this wouldn't have worked very well. My original mixture did have ginger beer, and it just all you could taste. Same problem I had with the original Copperbell ones. Let's go back up top now that this has had a chance to settle a bit. Definitely get that rum funk. Let's stir it up a bit. Okay. Interesting. So the rum kind of brings down the spice of the rye. And then, of course, it brings up the funk with the OFTD. This is... this is definitely better than the original Copperbell mines, which I liked, but was just kind of a pretty simple drink. This one has a lot of depth to it. I'm kind of surprised. So there you have it. And that is Copperbell Mines Hard. Sound off in the comments below if you decide to make this drink. I made this to my personal tastes, so your mileage may vary. Please like, share, and subscribe if you liked the video, and check out the Patreon. And stay tuned for the next one, which will be Hawk Manor Hard. And until then, falls, balls. Cheers. Thanks for watching, and a big thank you to all of my patrons. You can sign up for the Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And a big thank you to my Alliance level patrons, KLG Chaos, Mal the Pal, and Shy. See you next time.